Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Netchook Arts. Today's topic, vinyl records. We're going to be talking about the vinyl because I'm getting back into building a vinyl record collection as my primary listening source here in my home. Now, just like many of you, I cut my music listening teeth on vinyl records. And I recently purchased a record player, which I'll probably make a video about upcoming, the one that I chose and I'm very happy with. But today we're going to talk about what I'm doing to rebuild my vinyl collection. Is I'm diving into the used vinyl, which is a great resource that's out there waiting for you. I'm going to talk today about a couple of records that I picked up. These are going to be from the past because a lot of the music that I love and I don't have in my collection is from the past. Part of what I'm doing and we're going to talk about is whether or not that music holds up over time. Some of it from back in the 80s and the 90s, 70s. And let's see how much that music holds up today and still plays strong to the ears, to the mind, and to the heart. All right, so let's start off. Boz Scaggs, Down to Then Left. This album was a Boz Scaggs follow-up to his huge hit, Silk Degrees. That album with Lido Shuffle and others is also another album that I picked up and I'll be talking about in a future video. But today we're talking about this one. This is the follow-up album to Silk Degrees. Boz Scaggs was at the top of the charts. He was at the top of radio play. And he put out pretty much a dumpster of an album. I mean, I'll cut right to the chase. This thing is a dog. Why? Apparently, Boz Scaggs wanted to step right into the same grooves and the same kind of musical themes that powered him through Silk Degrees. He thought it was going to be like putting on a comfortable pair of old shoes. But what he didn't count on was that apparently his feet became bloated and became ultra wides, and it just didn't fit any longer. Poor efforts at disco, poor songwriting. It really is 80% just poof, just pass it. You see this album? I'm almost sorry I bought it, but walk by it. But I will say that hardcore Boz Scaggs fans, they're probably going to dig it. I didn't. There is one gem on here, though. There is one redeeming grace, and who knows? Maybe it was a song that didn't make it onto Silk Degrees because it still has a bit of that magic. That gem is a clue. A clue. It's got a real earth, wind, and fire kind of vibe going to it, and that song would have fit perfectly onto Silk Degrees. So Boz Scaggs, pretty much thumbs down as far as I'm concerned. Here's another album that I picked up. Lene Lovich. Lene Lovich. Probably you haven't heard of her unless you were down with the new wave grooves that were happening back in the 80s. And in particular, the new wave dance grooves. This is Lene Lovich's third album. You might remember her tunes like New Toy, Lucky Number. My Lucky Number is one. You might remember those. If you went to any new wave dance club back in the 80s or any of those after hours clubs back in Hollywood like I used to frequent, and after they got done playing all the disco, they would shift over to new wave, then you heard this music and you danced to this music. Does this hold up years later? You bet it does. Part of it is nostalgia, but part of it is classic, top of the art, the state of the art of 80s new wave dancey music. It's right here, Lene Lovich. It's keyboard driven stuff. Her voice, though, is what really grounds this and makes it a great album and makes her stuff so good, because it is written like your classic 80s dance tunes that today will still move your feet. But that voice, that quirky voice of hers, and strong, classically trained voice is what drives and grounds these songs. Lene Lovich, No Man's Land, highly recommended. Pick this baby up if you find it in one of those used record discount bins. That's a gem. Also, standout tracks for me, 1 and 2. Her 1 and 2, it's Only You, and number 2, Blue Hotel. Blue Hotel went pretty high in the new wave charts back in the day. And the extra added bonus about this, I just can't stop talking about this woman. She's so talented. She provides the horns on this album. She plays sax and she plays trumpet on this album. So listen up, Lene Lovich, grab this. Also, she's a native of Detroit. So hooray, another great artist that came out of the city of Detroit. Final album we're going to talk about today, Credance Clearwater Revival. I picked this one up strictly on the name. I'm a fan of CCR, pretty much based on all the tunes that we've heard on the radio, that many of us were raised on the radio with, the classic tunes. But I like Fogerty, I like his voice, I like his guitar, and I saw this Credance Clearwater Mardis Gras album. Saw this, grabbed it. When I got home, I was slightly disappointed because I looked it up online, and this album, the final album of Credance Clearwater, this album was basically roundly panned by the critics. Oh, they ripped it, and they ripped it good, and including Fogerty himself, who ripped the album and just didn't even declare it worthy of being in the CCR library. So I was feeling a little discouraged going into listening to the album. Well, after a couple of spins, here's my take. I'm surprised. I'm really surprised because I was expecting to hear a dog, and it actually holds up fairly well, at least to these ears, that I'm not a hardcore Credance Clearwater fan. The songs, the songs are mostly written and brought forward by the other two members of the group. Fogerty's only got one song on the album, and so the critics kind of ripped it, and I think partly because it wasn't classic Clearwater, and it was focused on songs from the other members of the band. But I'll tell you what, side one plays just like a honky-tonk jukebox. If you went into any honky-tonk today and dropped some money into that jukebox, you would hear pretty much side one of this album. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. They're fairly forgettable songs, but you can sure play a pool to them in the background, and you can kind of tap your cowboy boots to those tunes. I don't have a problem with side one. And side one closes off with a cover of Someday Never Comes. Lots of people pick that as a favorite of theirs. They pick it as a redeeming grace on the album. More power to you. I'm so on that cover myself. Side two is a little bit more familiar with the Credance Clearwater classic rhythm section kind of pushing through that side. Fogerty closes out the album with his song. This album runs fairly fast. The songs aren't very long, and it clocks in pretty quickly. Most of it, is mediocre music, but it's not as terrible as critics would have you believe. I'd give this a shot. I'd rate this somewhere around a B minus, C. Just right in the middle, actually. B minus might be pushing it up a bit. But I just don't have all the problems with this album that many folks did. Oh, also, quick, let's see if there's anything fascinating on the liner. Nope. This may not be the original liner of the album. What about Lena? Her album liner? Also, nope. Sometimes when you get these used albums, the original liner may be gone, and the liner is part of the charm of the album. Boz Scaggs, while he gave you crap music, at least I picked up a quality original liner with the Scaggs album. All right, I'll bring you some more of my vinyl that I picked up and my thoughts on those albums the next time that we talk about vinyl records here on Netchook Arts. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for tuning in. If you like the variety of topics that we're bringing, please remember, subscribe down below. At least take a second to give a like, right? I'll talk to you again soon. Peace.